Hello and welcome to this tutorial about PowerShell Remoting. PowerShell Remoting allows you to run the PowerShell commands or scripts on the remote computers. It leverages the existing technology, which is the Windows Remote Management based on WSMan, the Web Service Management. To run the PowerShell commands to remote machines, you need to ensure that the destination computer has the PowerShell remoting turned on and the firewall configured accordingly. As well as you need to look for the authentication schemes. PowerShell remoting works in domain and as well as the workgroup environments. I will show you the both of the configurations, first in the domain environment, then the workgroup environment. This machine that I'm using here is a server 2019 data center machine, and on this machine, first of all, I'll show you that how we enable the remote management. So basically on the server operating systems, the Windows remote management is by default turned on, but somehow if it is not enabled, how you enable this? Let's have a look into it. All you need to do is you need to go to the server manager and you need to go to the local server blade on the left, and there is something called remote management where you see that by default remote management is enabled because it's a server operating system. You can click on enable button and you can uncheck this button to either enable or disable this remote management on the system. The another way of doing this is through the command line tools. So for that I can launch the PowerShell on this system, and from the PowerShell I'll show you that what different commands we can run to enable the remote management on a machine. So if I go to this command shell, here I can run a command called Enable-PSRemoting. This command enables the PowerShell remoting and it has a force switch also. You can go with the forceful operation to complete this. It will do four things over here. It will start the remote management service if it is not running. If it's already running, it will restart that. It will configure the firewall exceptions and it will configure the HTTP or HTTPS listeners for the remote management purpose. Now, if I find out other commands for this PS remoting, so I can do get command by noun and the PowerShell remoting. I can either enable or disable this PowerShell remoting on the system. The another way I can use is if I get this service WinRM, the Windows Remote Management service from this machine, it's already running. But if it is not, then I can use the start service command, or I can pipe this also into the start service command to start the service. Or I can directly run this command start service name is WinRM. Or I can use that traditional command shell tool, the command which is WinRM, and with WinRM I can do lots of things. What I can do is these are the different switches that you can use, and the one I'm going to use is WinRM QC, quick config. So I can run this external command also, or I can use that traditional command line tool to start stop services, which is net start. So I can go with net start or net stop and then the service name, that is Windows Remote Management. Well, these are the different ways to enable the remote management on a system, either using server manager, the graphical tool, or the command line. But if you have multiple servers to manage, so enabling the remote management or configuring the remote management for each system can be a daunting task. To make it easy, you can take advantage of the group policies. So you can configure the remote management through the group policy management as well, and you can centrally control the configuration for the remote management for the entire domain or the particular OUs. You can create and link the GPOs and configure the remote management. Well, these are the different ways, and once you ensure that the remote management is turned on the target computer that you're going to manage, which is London DC1 in this case here in this lab environment. So now you can do the remote management of this system. So I will switch to a client machine, which is in the same domain. As I mentioned that, first of all, I'll show you the remote management in a domain environment. So I have configured the Windows Remote Management Service, the firewall exceptions, and the HTTP listeners through that Enable-PSRemoting command. Now I'm all set to do the remote management. Now the thing I need to decide here is that whether I'm going to do one-to-one remoting or one-to-many remoting. One-to-one means that I will do session-based remoting. I will establish a session with the target computer and manage that. So that we do with the help of a command called new PS session. So I will run a command which is new -PS session to create a session with remote computer. The computer name is London DC1. I will provide, and I can provide alternate credentials in case if I want to use a different credential. Right now I'm logged in as enterprise administrator, so I have already full-fledged access, so that is why I will avoid using the credentials. Otherwise you can type in this hyphen credential and then you can put the command get credential in the parentheses, and as soon as you hit enter, so it will pop up for the credentials over here. You can provide your credentials. So it was not required in this case, but I just did it to show you that how you provide the alternate credentials to connect to the remote machines. So you must be a delegated administrator and then you gain access to the remote machine. The session has been opened. Because I did not provide the name for this PS session, because when I executed that command, this name was a optional parameter. I ignored this. So the name for this session has been given as a default name, which is WinRM4, as you see, and there is an ID assigned to this session. Now I can use the command Enter-PSSession to enter this session, and if I put that ID number 4, so you will notice that I have the shadow shell of the remote computer now. So if I do the host name, if I run the command, so I will see that I'm on the London DC machines shell. In fact, that has been literally displayed over here. So any command that I will run over here, for an instance, I do md E drive demo folder. So this directory is getting created in the E drive of that London DC machine, not on this computer. So if I go to this systems E drive, there must not be any demo folder. Demo PS1 is there, but not the directory. So that's how I can do the session-based remoting for the remote computer. And this is how I enter to the session. I can exit the PS session and come back to my shell, my local shell. So if I do host name this time once again, so I will see that I'm on the London CL1 now. So we have seen some of the commands with the noun, which was PS session. If I list you all the commands here, so I can connect to the existing PS session, I can get the list of the PS sessions because I just exit from that PS session. I have not removed or disconnected from that session. So you will notice that a session is already available with London DC 1. Now I can connect through this command connect PS session anytime, and then I can use this command. This session is in fact already open, so I will show you how to disconnect a session. So this is to disconnect this connect PS session ID 1. So this session ID is disconnected. You see the session is now in that state. In fact, it is just disconnected. If I want, I can connect back. So I will use the command connect PS session. And if I want, I can remove this session from this system. So all I need to do is remove PS session ID 1, and if I clear this screen and I do get PS session again, so you will see that there are 2 more sessions over here. The first session has been deleted. So that's how I can work with these sessions. This is called the session-based remoting, and it's used for one-to-one remoting purpose. And it was the explicit remoting that I did. I mean, I explicitly accessed the shadow shell of the remote computer to do the remote management. But we have another way of doing the session-based remoting as well, which is called implicit remoting. In implicit remoting, rather getting the shadow shell of the remote computer, we use the existing session and import the module from the remote machine to the local machine itself. So for an instance, I want to import a module from the remote computer. So I will say import module, and then in that import module, I will put the module name that I want to import. Let's say the module name is Active Directory. Now I can define the PS session parameter to define the session through which I want to import that module. So I have already two sessions opened with that target computer. Either I can use them, or if I don't have any session, so let me show you that scenario. So I can then create a new PS session and put it here in the parenthetical command. So it will execute that command to create a new session and then pass it on to this PS session. So computer name is London DC1, and I can import this module from the remote machine to this machine. But suppose I have multiple domain controllers like DC1, DC2, DC3, and how will I identify that the commands that I have or import module that I have imported from the remote machine to this local machine? So for that, I can use this a prefix, and this prefix is actually the string that I have provided, which will be added into the noun of the commands imported from the remote computers module. So when I import this module called Active Directory to this local system from the remote machine, you will notice that all those commands in that module will have a prefix as DC1. So if I get the command from the module, which is Active Directory, so here you will see that all the commands have this DC1 as a prefix in them, which the commands which have been imported from the DC1 module or DC1 computer. But there are some commands which do not have DC1 because these are the commands from the module which is locally available on this system. I already have a module on this machine because it has RSET installed, the remote server administration tool. So if I get the module present on this system, so you will see Active Directory and the other one, which is again Active Directory. So I have two Active Directory modules, one from the local machine, other one is imported from the remote computer. Now, what is the benefit of doing this? The benefit of doing this is that you will notice that I'm on the local session or local system. I'm not entering to the session of the remote computer, but still I can run the commands to manage the Active Directory, like new DC1 AD user. So the command is basically new AD user, but DC1 has been added for the command that was imported from the module from the remote machine to this machine. Now I will provide the name for this user account and ABCDEF, and then I will create this user account. You see, I executed a command on the remote computer without entering to the session of that computer. I'm still on my local shell of this London CL1. But yes, it is using that PowerShell session that I created through that command while I imported the module. So this was the session which was created, session ID 5. It was that session that it is using. So this is how we can use this session based remoting. I will remove this PS session once again, and then I will define the session ID, which is, let's say, 2, 4, 5, and I have removed all these sessions. If I do get PS session, I don't have any session so far. So this time if I run this command, so of course it's not going to work because that session has been deleted, and now it has created a session for implicit remoting once again. So this is how I can import the modules from remote computer and run the commands from the local shell or local session. So now I can see that again there is a session created, and I will remove this session once again. This session ID is ID number 6, and also I will remove the module from this current session, which is this Active Directory module. So I have removed that. Well, this is implicit remoting. This was session based remoting to manage one system at a time. But suppose I have to manage multiple systems at the same time. So then I can use a command called Invoke-Command. I can invoke a command to multiple systems at the same time. Now suppose in this environment I have one more machine which is a member server machine, and it is called London server 1. So if I switch to that machine and enable the remoting on that, or like I said that on server operating systems it's already enabled, so I'm assuming that it is not turned off, it is already turned on there. and I will manage these two computers from the CL1 machine. So let me just ensure that this machine has remote management turned on. So this is London server 1. If I switch to the local server, so on the local server I can see the remote management, and this remote management is enabled over here as well, and the machine is part of the domain, which is edatom.com. So I need not to configure the firewall in the domain environment. The firewall is already configured to allow the Windows remote management traffic, and the credential that or the authentication scheme it will be using is the Kerberos authentication. It will work with. So the machine is in the same trusted domain. I will switch to my client machine, which is again the member client of that domain, and this time I want to manage multiple systems from the single machine. That is why we call it one-to-many remoting. So I can invoke the command to the computers here. I will say invoke command, and in the invoke command, invoke command, invoke command, and I will invoke the command in two different ways. I can do that. One is a script block where I can put the commands in semicolon separated. Suppose I want to make a new Active Directory user on the target computer. The username will be let's say ABC123, and then semicolon separated I can put another command also over here. For instance, I want to start the service. The service name is bits. So semicolon separated, you can put multiple commands, and then you can define the computer name to which you want to invoke this command. So I want to invoke this command to the computer London DC1. I'm invoking it to this one machine right now because only that is my domain controller. But if I'm supposed to run the commands to multiple machines, so they must have that particular module or the command present on that. So let's say this is start service command I want to run. I want to invoke that to DC1 and then the London server 1. And the same way I have the credentials parameter that I can use to pass on the alternate credentials or delegated admin credentials to do that particular job. So this is how I can invoke the command to multiple machines. When I invoke the command to multiple systems through this invoke command, so whatever is there in this script block will be converted into the XML, into the extensible markup language basically, and this XML will be transferred to the remote computer, and it will be invoked. So it is going to use some network bandwidth, of course. So you can define as many as computers over here because it's an array, but you also do not want that this command will choke the network of your organization. So otherwise the other application's performance can be hampered. So if you do not want to do that, and in fact by design it is designed in a way that it will invoke the command to 32 nodes at a time, but still you have the option to throttle limit to define that. Okay, you will throttle down if the multiple computers being defined. Suppose you define 200 computers here, so you want to run commands to 20 computers at a time, so you can define this number. So you can increase that or decrease that default value. That is the throttle limit, which is 32 nodes by default, but you can decrease that as per your requirement and available bandwidth of your network. So this is how you invoke the command to the remote computer. Sometimes we make mistakes to invoke the commands to the remote machine, and what it can be. For an instance, I store the service name into a variable, and this service name is bits. So I store a string value over here in this variable, and if you see, this variable has a value called service, which is variable has a value bits in it. Now the mistake we make is when we invoke the command to the computers, then we use this variable here. So suppose I want to start this service and service name is $service. So I'm accessing it from the variable. But the problem here is right now that PowerShell will invoke this by translating into the XML and invoke it to the remote computer and launch a session, PowerShell instance, and execute this code. The problem here right now is that this variable is locally on this system, not on the target computer, and it will fail to find out a variable by the name $service on the target computers. So if this variable is not present on those target computers, then it will fail and you will get the error that value is null. So name, because it is null, there is nothing in this variable, it could not find that. So if you have some local data and you want to pass on this data to the remote computers, be it the variable values, the credentials, or anything else that you need to pass on to the remote machines in the remote management, so there are two ways. One we were using in PowerShell version 1 or 2. And what was that? First of all, let me show you that. That was in fact a little bit complex method to do it. How we were doing it? We were defining the param inside this. So we were defining the param attribute, and then we were declaring the parameter over here. Let's say this is a service name. If you have more than one variable to access from the local system, then comma separated you can define them. Now you replace this value after parameterizing this with this service name, the one that you declared here as a parameter. But because this parameter will require a value to execute the command, so I will use the argument list parameter in this command, and I will pass on this local variable over here. So what PowerShell will do, it will access the value from the variable. It will access those objects and will pass on them to this parameter, and then this parameter is being used over here. So argument you are providing, the argument list, it can have more than one. Suppose I want to define more details, more parameters here. So comma separated I can create multiple parameters, and here in comma separated I can put multiple arguments. Then I will hit enter finally, and then this will execute properly. So this is one of the way of using the local data and passing it to the remote computer. Now let's see how it is improved in PowerShell version 3 and later. So in PowerShell 3 or later, I can use a using variable. So if I repeat this command, I don't need this argument list to use today because I'm in PowerShell 5.1. And here this variable was service. So I will say using service. So I'm using the service as a local variable, and in fact I need not to parameterize it, so I will remove it. So you will notice that how easy it is to pass the local data today to the remote computers. $using colon and then the variable name. So this variable is a local variable. I'm using it over here. So it will first fetch the objects from it and then pass on to the remote computer in this script block. So this is how we can execute the PowerShell commands to remote systems by using the local data. Well, after this, there is another problem sometimes you may encounter, and that problem is that when you let's say you want to get some objects from the remote computers and you want to process them. So sometimes you make a mistake. For an instance, I go with this get service. So here I go with this command get service, and service name, let's say this service name is bits. I get this service from two computers and this service is right now running. Suppose I want to use a method of this service. If I do get member, so here you will see that these are the properties and this is the method. I do not have this object as a live object. It is a dead object actually, because the object retrieved from the remote computer is stored into the XML and it can have only the attributes but not the methods. As compared to if I run the same command get service name bits on my local computer and I do get member, so you will see that there are many methods over there, but those methods are now missing when I'm retrieving the object from the remote computer. So here you see it is deserialized. Due to that, I don't have the method like start or stop. So sometimes what mistake we do is we try to apply these methods by after retrieving the object from the remote machine. So I will retrieve this object and then I try to use the methods with the for each object command. So for each object is the command that is used to apply the methods. So I will define the member name and let's say I want to stop this service. So I'm getting this service from both of the systems and I'm trying to stop that. but you will see the result that it is not stopped. So if you hit this get service name bits, you will see this service. Okay, this is on the local machine, excuse me. So I need to do the get service from the remote computers, and you see the service is still running on both of the machines. It is no longer stopped. So I did this get service name bits from those two computers, script block, and actually this has been stopped automatically, not through this method that I have applied, because I'm damn sure, because there is no method like stop. So this has not been stopped by that. Let me show you this with starting it, and you will notice that it will not start if I use this command to get this service from both of the computers, London DC1 and server 1. It is still in the stopped state. You see the method is not applied, and the method is not applied because the object is deserialized when I retrieve it from the remote machine, and because of that there was no such method that could have been applied. So that is why the service is still in the stopped state. Well, if my requirement is to start this service, then rather than fetching the object first to the local machine and then applying the method, it is better, or it is advised, that you do it within this script block. So for each object and the member name that I want to apply is start. So now you will notice that this member is applied and the service is started on both of the machines. So this is how we can apply the methods, or we can use the method. So whatever the object manipulation you want to do, you should do it within the script block. Well, this is how we use the script block. But suppose if I have a script, the ps1 file, for instance, I have this inventory.ps1, if I have it here, and if I run it here, this inventory.ps1, it runs on this local machine and retrieves the data, but I want to invoke it to remote computers. So I can invoke the scripts also using the same command called Invoke-Command, and in that Invoke-Command I will use this time file path instead of a script block, and then I will locate my script which is in this location itself, or just go and provide the location, literal path of that script, inventory.ps1, and to what computers you want to invoke that, London DC1 London server 1. So this script will be invoked on both of the machines, and the results will be returned back to this local machine. So London DC1 is a server 2019 data center machine, and London server 1 is also a server 2019 data center evaluation machine. So these are the ways of invoking the commands, be it a script block, which is a set of commands in a curly braces, whereas file path can be used if you have documented the commands and the logics inside one ps1 file. It's a .ps1 file. So that's how you can invoke the command to the remote machines to do one-to-many remoting. Now, the method that we have used to do the remote administration was the easiest way, because this setup is actually the Active Directory domain environment. The machine is joined to the domain, and they are using the Kerberos authentication scheme. The firewall is already allowing the Windows remote management traffic, and the machines are in the trusted network. But we have another type of network which is known as work group, which is less structured as compared to the domain, and it is actually not as much as centralized as the domain environments. So if I remove this machine from the domain, so you will see that how difficult it becomes to do the remote management. So I will define the unjoin credentials for this. I will say that, okay, these are the credentials, /administrator, and I will restart this machine after unjoining from this domain, moving it to the work group, and computer name. I'll do this operation forcefully. The password for the account that has the permissions to remove this, I provided. So this machine has been removed from this domain environment. Now, when you are working in a work group environment, the first thing you need to do is you need to configure the firewall. You need to enable the firewall exceptions with 5985 or 5986, the Windows remote management over HTTP or HTTPS. Those ports you have to configure. Okay, I repeat, 5985, for HTTP and 5986 for HTTPS. So WinRM running over HTTPS uses 5986. So you need to configure them. Second thing, you need to match the authentication scheme. So Kerberos you cannot use because this machine is now part of the work group environment. So these machines will not be trusted. In fact, you can consider it a kind of situation where you have bring your own device. Suppose this is your personal machine and you want to do the remote management of your domain environment or the server which is member of a domain. So how will you do that? That we will see here in this case. So let this machine be restarted and start in the workgroup environment. I will log in as a local administrator and will show you how to do the remote management of target machine. So now I am logged in as a local admin account, as you see here. So the remote administration will work in domain environments and will also work in workgroup environment. But because in workgroup environment the machines are not part of a trusted domain, trusted network, so we need to set up the WinRM to do this trust. How do we do that? We will see it, but first let's see that whether I'm able to run the PowerShell commands to do the remote administration from a workgroup machine where my server is part of the domain, or maybe that system is also a workgroup system. So either both systems are in the work group, or maybe one machine is the target machine is member server of the domain and the client machine is in the work group. So if I run the shell as administrator and I want to do the management of the remote computer, I will invoke the command, and with this invoke command I will provide the computer name here, invoke command. I will put a script block to put some simple command over here. Let's say get service and bits, and I want to invoke this command to the computer which is London DC1, and I pass on the credentials as domain admin credentials. So I will say get credential. Either I provide those credentials here or I use this get credential command. So you will notice that I'm providing enterprise admin credentials, which are that administrator and the password. But you will see that it will fail because the authentication scheme is different from Kerberos. This machine is no longer part of the domain. Well, if I want to do this remote administration, so all I need to do is I need to set up the WinRM on this system to trust that remote computer. And on that remote computer, I need to set up the trust with this. So I need to do the explicit trust relationship between the server and the clients for remote management purpose. So on the PowerShell systems, we have something called PowerShell drive. We have many PowerShell drives to work with different data stores and the configuration changes we want to do. So in the introduction, I told you that the Windows remote management works on the industry standard protocol WSMAN, Windows Web Service Management, okay, which works over HTTP or HTTPS for remote management. So Microsoft implemented WinRM for remote management, and in Linux we use SSH. Both work over this WSMAN, over HTTP, HTTPS. So I will configure this WSMAN. So if I do dir and WSMAN drive, so I have a container called localhost. So if I take you to this localhost, it is saying that remote management is not running on this system. So first you need to start the WinRM service on this machine because it's a client machine. So this is expected that the clients do not have the the remote management service turned on them. So I will start that, and now I will do the dir to this drive. So this is get service Windows remote management service, which is stopped. I will start the service and hit enter. The service must be now running. I will do dir to the WSMAN colon. I see this local host, and from this local host I have many containers over here. Like I can configure the plugins, listeners, the client. So for an instance, I want to configure the client. So this is the client, and here I have something called trusted hosts list. So in this trusted host list, there is nothing by default. There is no system. So I can run a command to set up the configuration of this using set item command. And in the set item command, I'll define the path, and the path for the trusted host list is this one. So I will define that, and the value that I'm providing here is London DC1. So London DC1 machine will be the trusted machine. This system will trust that remote computer. Now if I do dir once again to that location, you will see London DC1 is trusted by this London client 1. I will do this on the target machine as well, because that machine is into a different authentication scheme altogether that trusts only the domain members. But now I want to set up a explicit trust for the remote management purpose on this machine as well. So I will launch the PowerShell, and in the PowerShell, all I need to do is I will say same thing, set item, and I will set the item at the WS man, which is local host. On the local host, I will configure the client with trusted host list, and the value that I will provide here is of my client machine, which is London CL1. Excuse me about the shortcut, because this path is actually a positional parameter, so I can omit that, but let me go with the full syntax. So this is how I'm setting up the London CL1 as the trusted client on this machine in this list. So I will do this. It gives you the warning also that explicitly trusting the hosts might be a security risk for you also. Passing on the credentials using this way can be risky. So now if I do the dir to this location, dir to this WSMan trusted host list, I'll see that the CL1 is now the trusted machine on that target machine. On this machine. So this machine trusts the CL1, and the CL1 trusts the DC machine. This is how you can set up the trusted host list of both of the machines and in the workgroup environment, and then you can start trusting them explicitly. The same command that failed last time will work this time. So if I invoke that command, which I used here, so invoke command script block, this is get service bits command and computer name London DC1 credentials, get credentials, and then I provide my domain admin or enterprise admin or delegated admin credentials to do this job. So administrator and the password. So this is the password I provided. I hit enter, and now you see that I'm able to invoke the command to the remote machine, which is actually a member server, and this machine is actually in the client, in the work group. So that's how we do the remote management in PowerShell. In nutshell, the remote management will allow you to run the PowerShell commands or scripts to the remote computers, regardless they are in the domain environment or in the workgroup environment. So that's all from this tutorial. I hope this tutorial was informative to you. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe my channel for other videos like this. Thanks again.